Welcome back to Confessions of a Wanna Be It Girl, the podcast helping you filter out the BS in pursuit of becoming the next It Girl. And in very It Girl fashion, I think a lot of us have maybe aspirations to be the leader in the group, the gal in charge, whatever that may look like for you. Yet, I didn't know a lot about what it takes to really be a good boss. I mean, the most people I have maybe been in charge of are the two people at one point I have had hired for the podcast, and occasionally working on film sets and in projects where I've gotten to act as an associate producer or, just a member of the team. So I really wanted to dive into what it takes to be a good boss. What does being a good boss look like? But I had no personal experience of being a boss of like a major amount of people, like say even over two or three. So that being said, I am joined by Olivia from Just Liv Socials to dive into what really makes a good boss. So let's do it. Welcome to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. I'm your host, Marley Fregging, and I'm here to help you filter out all the bullshit and become the next It Girl. This podcast explores the reality of what it really takes to make it out there. As it turns out, it is way less Instagrammable than I thought it was going to be. I'm still very much a work in progress, but there's simply nothing else I'd rather be doing than chasing my dreams. So let's learn from my mistakes and work together to achieve our dreams with more confidence, clarity, and direction. Let's get after it. Hi, guys, and welcome back to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. I am joined by the lovely Olivia from Just Liv Social, a premier marketing agency in Toronto, specializing in influencers as well as UGC. And today we are diving into talking about qualities of making a good boss. So, Olivia, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited you're here. I think if you listen to this podcast, know we have a deep obsession with social media and the world of social media. So I don't only think that you are very qualified to talk about being a boss, as you are the boss of your own company and founder, correct?
Correct.
Yes, but also have a cool job that we probably all like. So amazing. I want to start off really quickly telling us how you became a boss.
Yeah, for sure. So the girlies are gonna love this story. I will be very candid with you. I am a bit of a cheapskate when it comes to, getting things done. Like, I've always been one of those people that will reach out and try and do promotions. Like when I was 14, I was texting nail salons saying, hey, like, can I come in and make a video? Like, I want my nails for free. And there was this spa in Hamilton, Ontario that did lip injections. And I was obsessed with getting my lips done. But as we all know, it's expensive. So I reached out, was like, hey, I have a marketing degree. Let me run a campaign for you guys. And, I had no real experience in the social media space other than doing a little bit of influencer work here and there. And I ran an extremely successful campaign with them. They called me back. And yes, just to answer that question, I did get the lip injections for free. Of course. And they called me back and wanted me to kind of come and work for them full time. So I took them on as a client and things really exploded for the business. And I was so blessed. Things just started really rolling after that campaign ran. And after a few months, we had a massive client roster and I had to scale the business very quickly, which we will get into is a nightmare for a lot of people. So I'm happy that I can share some tips and tricks on how to scale and not be a crazy boss. Although I'm not sure all of my employees would agree with that. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into things. And I've been really lucky to have a really good team around me and we've grown so fast. It's been awesome.
Yeah, that's insane. How many employees do you currently have?
So currently we work with over 35 contracted workers. Yes. Yeah, which is
That's no little feat.
no little feat. Yes. It's a little crazy. There's a lot of people underneath me at all times, and a lot of different personalities. And I would say about 90% of them are women. We try to keep everybody that's working full time as female. We are fully like female owned and operated. But in the contracted workers, sometimes our videographers will be male, which of course I want to be inclusive of everybody, but I really like us. We're in the tech space. I really try and make sure we're providing opportunities for females that aren't really represented in a lot of those areas.
Yeah, and my view on that is when it's equal, let me know. Until then, I'm
Let
cool
me
with
know.
it, you know?
Until then, we're good.
Yeah, exactly. So did you ever have like a shit boss?
Yeah. Oh my God. And of course, everybody's had that horrible, horrible boss. The worst one, I go to my first job. So I was working for like cash under the table as an infant at Dairy Queen. And it was really, really tough because we were friends and it was like family friend. And I love her to death. I hope if she hears this, I love you. You're amazing. But it is so difficult to balance friendship or especially family friendships and being a boss. Like that is the worst line to kind of, it's such a blurred line. And going from like, screw you, you messed this up, you're late, you're going to get fired, to like, hey, you want to go see a show later is so confusing for employees. And I remember that was just really, really difficult for me.
I know we definitely all had a shit boss. I mean, I've had a few,
Everybody.
like, also just like very mid bosses along the way, like
Yeah.
not great,
Yeah.
not good.
Oh,
What do you think makes a good boss?
I think that that's a question that every single person is going to answer so differently. I mean, I have a lot of family members and that are involved in business and they are tyrants. And they think I am the worst boss on the planet. Like you're not
Really?
screaming at your employees every single day. I think it comes down to a feminine thing too. I think females will answer this so differently than men will. But a
Mhm.
lot of men are tyrants at work and they get the numbers. They're gonna see millions more dollars in their business than I will see in my lifetime. Like that's just they're gonna build those conglomerate businesses because they're robots. And I don't like to run my business like that. And if that means that I'm not going to be the billionaire, I'm not going to be the Jeff Bezos, I'm fully okay with that. So I think what makes a good boss for me is a lot of like, you've got to be really charismatic. You've got to have a lot of empathy for your people, but you have to be able to still have that like authoritative confidence stance around all of your employees. Because if you're all best friends, unfortunately, it's not going to work out.
So, how do you run the team then, or the contractors and all the people? Like, how do you enable people to go do their thing, trust them to do it, not be a tyrant about it? And then, like, what happens when you get disappointed?
I used to cry a lot. To be honest, when I started,
Cute.
managing people is a freaking nightmare and nobody talks about it. It is like babysitting adults constantly and it's just so difficult to manage people. But over time, after making mistake after mistake after mistake, you're going to start to realize how to do it. For me, I am the least micromanaging boss on the planet. I let my employees like free range all the time. And I'm sure a lot of them will work a 3-hour day one day and then a 20-hour day the next day. I have a really rigorous interview process. And I also do 3 months of probation for everybody that comes out to the team. So during that, I'm like on your butt for those 3 months to make sure, like, are you filling it? Like every day, those people have to be filling out exactly what they're doing during the day and after the day, what they got done, what they didn't get done, why they didn't get done it. And if you can survive those 3 months, then like that's our kind of our trust lock of go do your thing. But if I start to feel people falling behind, then we have to kind of move you back into that probation space. But that seemed to be something that really worked well for me.
Wow. Okay. So at first I was like, wow, she's really chill. And then I'm like, wait, nope. But it's
No,
earned this life.
you
It's
have to.
required.
Yeah, yeah, you really have to because people would just I used to be so chillax with everybody that came on to the team and it was great. We had really great company culture. Everybody's really happy right off the get-go, which is awesome, but people will not respect you and they will walk all over you and they will time steal. And even when people are your friends, they will, they'll come for free money and free time and all the free resources that come with having a chill boss. So yeah,
Hmm.
I try to be a chill boss, but there's lots of things you have to be careful about for sure.
I'm so curious because I feel like it's already come up a few times. How do you manage if you're working with friends or people you become friends with, even in the workspace? You seem like a lovely gal. We just met, we just hopped on the podcast. Like,
Thank
but like,
you.
you seem, wait, how do you keep that authority figure at the same time and like really slam the book down while still like keeping company culture positive?
It's that's a really good question. Yeah, I do bring it up all the time because it's been such a sore spot for me. And I think every young woman, when we're trying to build these like kick-ass female founded and run organizations, we want to hire our friends. It's natural. It would be really weird if you didn't want to hire your friends, especially if you're making all this money all of a sudden, or you've got all these opportunities and you've got great girls around you. You assume, of course, like let's kill it together. But it just does not work that way. I've hired a lot of friends and it's worked out very poorly. Luckily, most of us are still friends but I made a really kind of strict rule with myself just to not hire friends anymore, and that's super important, and when I feel that's also an interview question for me when I'm interviewing new people is like, "What do you see?" I think this is a question everybody should have in their interview process is, "What do you see our relationship being like when we work together?" because people will so often say, "Oh, like I expect us to be best friends." And that is a huge business red flag. Like run for the hills. Don't hire that person because they're going to be so upset every time you try and give them constructive criticism. They will feel like they can't come to you. They won't respect you. And then that whole hiring a friend circle happens again. So yeah, I just really try and make it clear. And I don't go out drinking with the girls. I don't go out partying with the girls. It's a, yeah, thick
That was
boundary there for sure.
literally my next question because I do think, in our culture of, posting everything on, there's a little bit of, I've seen it as particularly with like the accounting. It's like the next sorority of your life is, going out
Yeah.
to drink with the coworkers. So you remove yourself
That's
consciously
so true.
from that
That's so true.
situation.
Yes. Yeah. You have to. I think it works a little bit differently when you're working in a Fortune 500 company that has you in every single day, 8 to 5. But for me, I've done it before. I've definitely done it before. We'll go out for bottle service with the team if like we had a really good service month or whatever, but I stay sober and I no longer drink around the girls. Just, everybody just gets to a different comfortability and to jump back to Monday morning or Sunday whenever we're working is just really difficult. And I think it's more difficult on them than it is for me because as I said earlier, I had that tough experience with the boss that just couldn't balance that line. And I don't want to put any of my employees through that.
Wow. So you're more worried about them. You think you could handle it. And you're like, I got to
I could
fix
probably
this for
handle it,
me.
yes, because I can shut off brain and heart so quickly. It's taken years, but now it's like if it's work stuff, it's work stuff. And if an employee hates me 1 second, I can brush it off my shoulder. It's not a big deal. But I know for some people joining a new job, that's exhausting and it's confusing and it makes you feel like crap and your heart hurts. And meanwhile, I get to just sit here and be like, la da da, I'm fine. So it's important, definitely important. Yeah.
Well, I want to top it a little bit to that. You can shut it off, and myself, very much included. And I find often with females, but I'm a female. I love the females. Like I'm always want to be with the girls. How do you
Always.
get over this need to maybe be liked by them then?
Great question. Oh, I don't know that this ever goes away. This really doesn't ever. We're females. Like we all, I swear, most of us, probably 95% of that, and I'm making that up completely, but I would say a good 95% of us have that urge to be wanted and liked by other females. We're just like, girl gang is a big thing nowadays. And we all want to have this happy go lucky coworker group on social media. And unfortunately, it's just not everybody's going to like you, especially at all. This is such a good thing for me to touch on while we're talking about that. I think in social media today, especially on Instagram, TikTok, we're seeing all the girl boss stuff like
Hmm.
crazy. Right? It's like be an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur. I will warn everyone that you will find people that are not going to like you. You're going to fail a million times. You're probably going to go broke 5 or 6 times. And your first business probably is not going to work out. Like it sucks. Being an entrepreneur is exhausting. If you have a good business idea, go to a VC firm, go raise some capital, go find somebody else to take control of all the people. Because if you are passionate about swimsuits, you're just going to end up managing people for the next 10 years of your life. You're going to be an accountant, you're going to be a business manager, you're going to be doing all these things, and you're going to not have any time to do the actual swimwear aspect of it. You're going to be hiring people to do the swimwear. So, like, that is such a big thing. Not everybody's going to like you. It's exhausting. And be careful when you sign up to be an entrepreneur because you're an entrepreneur. You're not going to be, the makeup specialist or the, you know, whatever it is, the lash artist, the bikini model, whatever you want to do. It's really like its own separate entity when you're a business owner. And it's not talked about enough.
So many people think because of Instagram and they see the front facing part that is the job. And it's like, oh no, there's so much more that is
No,
actually the job that we don't see. And I think
so much.
now the person who maybe wanted to make the bikinis is smart enough, hopefully at this point, and realizing they're doing it. And they go and find an influencer to be the face while they still continue to do what they were doing.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah,
how the cookie
exactly.
crumbles, unfortunately. So when you became,
Unfortunately.
unfortunately, unfortunately, at the same time, like, you didn't want to be the face. Did you ever face imposter syndrome?
Going back to the kind of social media stuff with the girl boss stuff that we've got going on, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing that I saw at the beginning that really upset me is the Porsches and the stacks of cash and the
Mhm.
Van Cleef and, the big homes and everything. I mean, given today's housing market, the odds that I'm 24 right now, the odds that anybody under 30 can afford a house by themselves being an entrepreneur is literally impossible. I know there are going to be a few people that do it, but it is so difficult to scale a whole business, make it, successful, have a
Profitable.
net profit
Profitable.
positive, and then
Yeah.
buy all these things. It's insanity to me that we're pushing this. And I will tell you right now, like and we have clients that are in the States that own, so this is a good example. Clients in the States that own a hedge fund, and they basically, their whole thing is Lamborghinis and supermodels and jets. And they are not
Come on.
profitable. Like they weren't profitable a year ago. Now they're doing good, but it's at the time not profitable. We go in, we hire all these models, pay for all these cars, and these guys just drive around like they own it and tell the world this is how you become successful. Like social media is a lie. Almost everything you consume has been created to convince you that, it's real, but it's like watching a movie all the time. There's people behind screens and desks creating content to make you feel a certain way every second of every day. So we're sitting here having this imposter syndrome over, becoming a boss because I can't afford a Porsche at 18 years old. When meanwhile, that girl probably doesn't own that car. Maybe she does, and it's likely her parents.
Right.
It's so insane to me that we have such high expectations of young women who want to become entrepreneurs and business owners. And so, yeah, and I still face that all the time when I'm traveling for work. I'll see people my age that have made it and are doing all these things, but there's people lying and there's content being created that's not real, and you have to remember that.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that too. Being somebody who has very supportive family, very supportive, like family investment into my life and my career, like that's not mentioned in the 30-second TikTok reel. Like nobody brings it
No.
up. I'm still trying to figure out the correct political way for me to bring it up. It's tough, because like if you
It's tough.
don't say it, we know it's deep down, but we don't think it when we're just scrolling at the end of the day. And yet, it goes back into this whole idea of the girl boss culture. And I like
Yep.
love, hate the girl boss culture. Do you have any hot takes?
As I should watch my mouth here. Yeah, I am very teeter-totter with the girl boss culture. I
Say,
have been to a lot of events, and I've kind of spoken at some events and stuff that are crazy girl boss culture, and sometimes I feel amazing afterwards, and sometimes I don't feel so good. And I tend to not feel so good at the ones where we sit around and pout about us being women and just say, "Oh my gosh, like we're women, we deserve all these things, and we're hot and we're cool and we're smart, and like everybody listen to us and give us money." But like sometimes I want to go to a all female workshop where we focus on like finances and actual, usable assets to business and stuff like that. So girl boss culture sometimes forgets about the education side of business and just kind of goes towards like we deserve more. I'm like, no, we're still gonna work. We're gonna work harder than you men, actually, but we want to
right.
see the work. So
I
I don't
have
know, that's kind of my opinion on it.
Yeah, I think I have a similar opinion. I like love hate it. I love the mentality. Like I love that it
Yeah.
attracted me as a child and now I'm in it and I'm cool with it. And you got me and congrats, it worked. But
You
also
got me.
there's two sides of it, which I think is exactly what you're saying. There's talking about doing the work and then there's doing the work, which is not always
Yep.
so Instagrammable and cool. It is really doing things like finances or firing somebody. There should be. Like, don't talk about that. That being said, have you ever faced a challenging experience as a boss?
I think one of the worst things that ever happened, and I mean, now this happens all the time, and I feel very equipped to handle it. But one of the worst things that you will ever have to do, and that I ever had to do, is firing the first person you ever have to fire.
Mm,
Letting go a contract worker is different because you can just choose to stop working with somebody. But when you actually have to remove somebody from your company, it is devastating. It is really sad. You will cry. And if you don't cry, you're still going to probably scream in a bathroom or into your pillow for an hour or two. It's very frustrating. People get so upset and they don't understand why. And it's brutal because even the first person I ever let go was stealing money, like straight up stealing money. And I cried. Like this person is literally screwing me. And yet I was sobbing like a 4-year-old who just stubbed their toe. It was ridiculous. And I think that's something that every boss is going to have to go through at some time. It's just a nightmare, but you just have to keep doing it so you get a little numb to it because it does not get easier for a while.
Are you talking yourself through it? Do you have your bullet points?
Yeah, I usually try and like walk around and hype myself up to some like Cardi B for 5 minutes and hope that I'm not going to burst out crying halfway through. And yeah, when it comes to the actual let go process, I can't start like rapping, mid fire job. But it's you've got to be very careful when you're letting somebody go because there are very strict things, obviously, that you have to say, and you have to have good reasoning. You can't just be firing people because they said something mean about you. So it's usually quite straightforward. It gets really tough when the person kind of refuses to accept it and wants to have a longer conversation about it. But usually, what happens is you let the person go very, very straight to the point. And then if they feel like they need to speak with somebody else, they can speak to an HR representative or somebody else from the company because it's inappropriate for me to continue the conversation at that point.
How do you take feedback from your team?
I think it's really important to ask your team how you're doing all the time. And I try to do that constantly. I think as a boss, it's also important to kind of reflect even daily, but I try to do it once a week just to say, like, how am I messing up? Because you've always got your hands in so many buckets. The odds are you're messing up somewhere. It would be very bizarre if you were not messing up somewhere. There's too many things going on all at once. So I try and really write down like what areas are my employees struggling and how have I caused that? Because as a boss, it is my fault. Whatever they're doing wrong usually has something to do with me. So if somebody, isn't getting their projects done in time, then I need to ask, what's going on. And I'll try and take the girls. We do lunch with anybody that's in our area quite frequently just to talk about that and continue to talk about their goals and kind of their aspirations. And usually along those conversations comes up like, how can I support that? I find when you let people give you criticism, I mean, I've seen the boxes and stuff where people can just put in little notes and whatnot of what's going wrong. I have done stuff like that before. Sometimes it can get a little bit nasty. And then I personally am bad at taking nasty feedback. I get grumpy and I'm like, oh, that person sucks. Why are they so mean? Whereas if we have a more open ended conversation about it, it's good. I also love to let the girls talk by themselves. Like sometimes I'll send them out with my COO or my CMO to lunch, and then they'll feel more open about talking a little bit of crap about me, which is great. Cause I'm like, all right, let's figure out where this is coming from and reevaluate. I'm not going to walk in and be like, oh, Sydney told me you said this on Monday, but it's a good way for me to kind of wrap my head around some ways that I might be messing up.
So this lunch, I'm picturing this team of like at least, 10 around a lunch table. How do you not let this get out of control when you're opening the floodgates for feedback or maybe talk about personal conflictions with work? How do you keep the
We'll
lid
keep
on?
it small. We keep it very small. So usually I
Mhm.
actually would never let it get to 10 people. And
There you
I
go.
don't even know if we have more than 10 people in one area at a time. Yeah. So if I go see, our team in Miami, then I'm going to be talking to like 5 people at a time. If we're in Hamilton or Toronto, probably, yeah, five or six maybe. And that keeps the conversation small always, which is, yeah, key. 15 people, no chance that's working. Nightmare.
Yeah. I'm definitely somebody who let my emotions get the best of me.
I am a massive advocate of meditation. I meditate twice a day. I would lose my mind if I didn't. I'm also a huge breathwork fan. There's a girl in Miami I met a few months ago, and she does breathwork. Her name's Kira, and I'll send you the stuff after. Your brain's gonna explode if you haven't done breathwork. It's the best thing. It's the best thing in the whole world. And that is just something that's completely changed my life. When I'm upset, coming home and doing breathwork or doing a guided meditation, if you have a crazy brain that's running all over the place, do guided. I can't sit there and meditate in dead silence for 20 minutes. I would like, there's no chance I'm making it through that. So just, yeah, I meditate like crazy because otherwise I probably would scream at people. And that's one thing I refuse to do to my team members, no matter what's happening. I never want to yell at somebody. I don't like raising my voice at all. I don't think there ever is a situation where you need to be doing that. And if it is, then one of us is too upset about something and not in control of our emotions. So that's when I always turn back to like, do I need to go work out? Do I need to go meditate? Or am I hungry? Sometimes it's hunger.
For real. That's real. And then approaching like the feedback yourself, like how do you, for someone who's maybe never given that kind of conversation before?
It's really tough. It's definitely tough to give people feedback in a way. I think sometimes pointing out what people are doing. Just going back to elementary school tactics here, the 2 stars and one note is always a really good way to go. I love if a videographer, for example, is, not creating content to the way that I need it. I'll say, hey, I'll really try and find two things that they kicked butt in. And if that's just maybe I can just go personal, like you're such a charismatic, awesome human around our clients. I'm just really happy to work with you. Can you give me a call later? Just so they feel happy because there's nothing like getting that text of like, hey, we need to talk later.
Mhm. I
They're
hate that.
just losing their mind for 2 hours before you call. So always say something nice, say, hey, give me a call later. They're hyped, they get on. Okay. And then I'm going to suggest ways to fix it. I'm never like, hey, you're messing up, fix it. Like, here's what we
Right.
need to do. Or do you have any suggestions on how I can achieve this? Because I'm struggling with this on my end. How do you feel about it? So
And give
always try and take the blame.
right, give them the space to respond. But I hate thinking about was like some I'd be like, this is not my fault though. This is actually not my fault, but I'm gonna pretend.
That's so funny. I was talking to a girlfriend today. I had a situation at work, and I called her and I said, "You're gonna hate this, but like I know I didn't mess this up. Like this was not my fault. Just so you know, you're gonna be on my side." But it's yeah, those ones can be really tough. I think that comes back down to the hiring process too. If you have a really good hiring process, you're gonna be able to tell right away and through interview questions if someone's gonna be stubborn like that. Because there are situations where employees are right and I am wrong, and that's fine, but I need to be make sure that I'm in the headspace to figure out that I'm wrong. I won't if they really believe they're wrong, like we need to figure it out. But I've honestly I've never had a super, super tough problem with employees doing stuff like that. I think it's just, yeah, it comes down to hiring the right people that are going to be open to like a conversation where there's not like a definitive, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing is for you, being a good boss starts with really being a good person picking strong candidates in the interview. So
Huge, huge.
what are your like red flags or like things that you're kind of like, oh, I as a boss need to know that doesn't work well for my company. It doesn't work well for me.
First off, watch out for lying people that come in, and we all do it. We all do it. But I always tell people to explain at least two of the jobs on their resume. And then I'll do a little bit of back checking just because people lie. And I think that that's a really big red flag for any company when you come in. I also don't love when people, expect me to believe that they're going to stay with me for their entire lives. So I tend to ask people what their 1 year goal is and what their 5 year goal is. And if they're like, I'm going to be exactly in this position, making $20 an hour and be so happy with it in 5 years. I'm like, well, that's not true. So I'm
No,
going to
not.
assume you're lying. I love realistic people. If they say like, yeah, I want to come in and learn for 5 years, and then I might be interested in launching my own business one day. And I hope that you can help with that. I'm like, that's awesome. That's really cool that you're able to tell the truth. Here's a million reasons why you might not want to be a boss. You're going to probably
Fair
stay
enough.
working. Here you go. But it's yeah, that seems to be two of my really big red flags. And again, jumping back to the friends thing, when people are really insistent on like us becoming best friends through the process of working, just something I have to be careful with because I'm like, that's gonna hurt you and it's not gonna be good for our working relationship. So usually those things I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a tough one with that one too. I like love working with friends and I hate working with friends. It's rough, but and then at the same time, like there are friendships that came from work and we seem to have no problem. So I'm like,
No, it
whatever.
works. There's a
Yeah.
million situations where it works. It's just when it doesn't work, it's real bad. It's really, really bad.
No, it can be not only traumatic for you as a friend, but I also think it can knock your confidence as a boss because then you
For
see a different
sure.
empathy inside that you see. Not that I'm a boss of 35 people. What do you do to keep your confidence up as a boss after, maybe things have gone awry or when things go right and you don't want your ego to get massive?
I think that's a good question. I think, yeah, watching it's such a difficult line for people to balance. You have to watch your ego, but you have to keep your confidence in check as well. Jumping right to ego, check yourself. Check yourself, ladies. Check yourself. Make sure you are not the most confident person in the world. I understand that, you want to feel that way and it's great, but when you think you know everything, your business is fucked. Your business is so screwed. You're gonna go down and down in flames. You don't know everything, and the more that you can open your eyes to the things that you don't know is the better that your business is gonna do, the better of a boss you're gonna be, the happier your employees are gonna be. It's so important to check yourself and watch your ego. And I think in terms of keeping your confidence up, because looking at the other line of things, there's lots of girls that are kicking butt right now, and all to them. Just check yourself, watch yourself, keep growing. You're doing amazing. I see this a lot, especially in maybe moms and younger women that want to get into business. They're really struggling with self-confidence like crazy. And I understand that. And there's that imposter syndrome. How could I ever run a business when I've been a mom for the last 10 years, or I have no education, or I have, no money? I'm not sure where to start. That can be really, really tough for anybody. And I think the best way to combat that is going to networking events. It's huge. They're everywhere now that COVID is done. Like, just Google a female forward marketing event or networking event, or whatever industry you're in. Like, buy a ticket, get your butt down there. You're going to meet 40 people in the same scenario as you, and you're going to meet 80 people that know a lot more than you, and they're going to teach you something, and you're going to leave just feeling so empowered and so just so much better being around other women that want to grow like that. And there's enough success in the world for everybody. You're just going to feel so like happy. And I know when I'm feeling like crap and, things, maybe we didn't have a good month. When I go to those events, I'm just like a new, light, glowy, happy person right after. It's the
No,
best.
I feel that, like, getting in the situation with the people that are doing what you are doing or want to be, not only does it up your confidence, I find that it reignites my interest in doing the actual work, not just sitting around and chatting about it. We're talking about, like, well, for you, it sounds like it might be finances. For me, it's usually like pitching mails and
Execution.
things off.
Yeah,
Yeah, execute. But, it reignites me to go back into why
exactly.
they were to get back, and start or hire somebody. What is the most important thing would look for?
I think organization. I think that's what I would go for. That's tough. It depends on how they're starting the business. Right from the very get-go, I'm a big salesperson, as I'm sure you are too. Like, we just want to get out there and talk to as many people as we can, which is great. But when there's two of us, it's just a fiery disaster and nobody's watching the books, nobody's writing anything down. Never good. So, yeah, right-hand man, probably just the most organized person I could possibly find. And that is who I had helping me at the beginning. And that's a lot of the reason for our success very early on, was because like my brain was just go, go, go. And she just made sure everything was, taken care of on the back end. And that's so important, because if you make $1 million tomorrow and you don't know what's happening with it, you're done for. Disaster. So yeah, organized people are awesome when you're a kind of sales forward person, and vice forward. If you're super organized, go find somebody that can talk everybody's ear off, because they're
I
going
think
to do
I need to
great.
flip. I would love to just organize paperwork all day to keep me away from numbers. Saying that.
No numbers. Perfect. Done.
Numbers. Hey, Olivia, you are so wonderful. You are so well spoken. Thank you so much for taking time to in the podcast. Everybody needs to know where they can find you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can find us at www.justlivsocial.com. And that's where you can apply to work with us or apply to be a client of ours. And then on top of that, you can find us on social media at Just Liv Social. Thanks, guys, so much. And thank you, Marley. This was awesome.
Oh my God, thank you. You're the best.
Thank you so much for listening to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the show. As always, we'll see you next Tuesday.